Thank you very much indeed, Presiding Officer. As the Minister who took the Scottish Climate Change Act through this Parliament, I place that at the heart of my remarks today. Perhaps starting with the subject of carbon capture and storage. Helen Eadie and I are both European enthusiasts, but this is one subject where Europe is not doing well. We have not a single carbon capture and storage facility in the whole of the EU. China has double figures, and even the United States, not the most obvious climate change champions in their engagement on the issue, are making progress on this. So, climate change, something that united us when we took the bill through in 2009 and continues to do so to this day. So we share on objectives, but I think I'm going to differ substantially on means from the two minority groups in this Parliament who are behind the motion that stands against the consensus represented clearly by the majority. It's worth just responding a little bit to Mike Mackenzie. I remember when my brother and I were water bailiffs in 1968, we brought our coal into our bothy by sea. We had half a ton of it to keep us warm over the summer. So remote and rural communities often do depend in a very important way on coal. Let me talk a little bit about the positives that can be derived from Opencast Mining. One of the ministerial visits I made, it was on the 1st of November 2011, at the invitation of the River Nith Salmon Fisheries Board, was to go down and see the impact, the positive impact on the environment of the opencast industry. I will contrast this with poor examples as well. And the industry there had redirected the Nith on several occasions, but in their restoration had improved the water flow. They had improved the embankments on the river, moving fences out to keep beasts from polluting the river, putting trees in to improve the riverside environment, working with the salmon fishing industry to suspend blasting operations at time when the salmon were spawning. What was the result of that? A 4 times increase in the number of salmon reaching the upper reaches of the Nith. A very successful collaboration between the opencast mining industry there and champions of environmental excellence as represented by the salmon fishers in that area. Now, would that was the universal experience? It clearly is not. We saw the difficulties that were introduced by the proposals to increase track access charges, putting £4 on each tonne that was going to be carried. Fortunately mitigated. I'm not sure that was a great advert, as Claudia Beamish would have us, for collaboration across the borders. It was an issue of vital economic concern to us and of comparatively little concern to the larger UK. Fortunately, the arguments swayed the day, and I think today is an example of rational argument. It's worth looking at what opportunities there are for the industry in future. It is, of course, important that we get to an energy mix that is fully sustainable. But we will get there by stages. We have to continue to exploit non-renewable resources. We have to use fungible resources as an intermediate technology en route to there. They're part of the economic mix. If we destroy the economy, we destroy the economics that will be necessary to take us to a fully renewable future, to a future where we've dramatically reduced our climate change footprint in line with the legislation that we have passed. So the economy and doing the right thing for the environment are inextricably linked. They cannot be separated unless you decide to close down the whole of the human race and all our activities. Well, fair enough. A sterile world without us on it would indeed be a relatively climate change impact-free world. But what worth would that be to us, or indeed to the world and all who live on it? Restoration by the coal industry at its best, as I've described, is very, very good indeed, but at its worst is absolutely unacceptably bad. And it's right in this Parliament that we focus on the bad, because it is the bad where we wish to effect change. We have to ensure that the industry has the opportunity to generate the funds that will enable it to do that restitution. I, like others, will drive from time to time up the M90. We see the impact of today's Opencast Mining. We can see, without being able to quantify it, that it will be substantially expensive to make good what has been done. It's worth perhaps extending the hand of friendship to political colleagues across the chamber. I congratulate Claire Baker and her colleagues for working effectively with the Minister, putting aside some of the tribalism that sometimes contaminates debate in here. And I say this with gritted teeth. I extend that even to Murdo Fraser on the Conservative benches. This Parliament has not always been kind to the miners. In 1701, we passed a habeas corpus Act. And in that Act, it specifically said this present Act, whose purpose is relatively self-evident, is in no way to be extended to colliers. In other words, they excluded colliers from freedom, and they remained in enslavement to the owners until an Act of 1799. Today, we have an opportunity to unite in a positive way that does some good for this industry, while simultaneously propelling us closer to the climate change objectives which we all agreed on in June 2009. Presiding Officer.